This podcast was recorded before Syria's Bashar al-Assad regime fell on December 8, 2024, following 14 years of civil war and conflict.
There was no awareness whatsoever about childhood cancer. Most people thought it was a fatal disease with no hope and that it was contagious. So many children with cancer were marginalized in the society.
That's Mayya Assaad. She's the co-founder of a pediatric cancer foundation in Syria. Today, we're going to hear about the challenges of treating cancer in a conflict zone. That's next on St. Jude Around the World. I'm Suhair Rasool, and I have the privilege of serving as a Senior Vice President for ALSAC, the fundraising and awareness organization for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. As part of the St. Jude Global Mission, we collaborate with nonprofit organizations worldwide to fight against pediatric cancer and other catastrophic diseases. This podcast brings you real stories of the life-saving work of our St. Jude Global Alliance partners. In many low to middle income countries, pediatric cancer is not a priority, and that was the case in Syria, until Mayya Assaad learned of the problem. She was volunteering at a children's shelter one morning when her relationship with a little girl led her to a children's cancer center in Syria. This experience changed her life forever, which eventually led her to be the co-founder of the foundation called BASMA, the Children with Cancer Support Association in Syria. In Arabic, BASMA means smile.
I cannot express in words the feeling of shock and sorrow that when I saw these children, the sight of gray walls, the fears in their eyes because their parents weren't allowed to stay with them. The nurses were understaffed, no compassion. I will never forget that day. So after that day, I started to do research about childhood cancer in Syria.
And her research eventually led her to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, where she also learned about the decades of work and partnerships with hospitals in the region, including Jordan, Lebanon, and Morocco. Mayya decided to visit each location to learn as much as possible before going back to Syria and establishing the first nonprofit organization dedicated to pediatric cancer.
There were no specialized centers or units in Syria, only this cancer unit in the Children's Hospital, which consisted of 34 beds. So it was the only place of treatment for all children coming from all over Syria to Damascus to get treatment. There were very few specialized doctors. Most of the children were treated by adult oncologists. There was no awareness whatsoever about childhood cancer. Most people thought it was a fatal disease with no hope and that it was contagious. So many children with cancer were marginalized in the society.
Despite not being a medical professional, she decided to learn how children with such catastrophic diseases could be treated. All the work she was doing was on a volunteer basis, and she quickly realized she needed help to fight for these precious children. So she recruited more volunteers. One of those people with the same passion and drive was Rima Salem. She too lived in Syria and had seen the pain that pediatric cancer causes.
One day, one of the moms asked me to help her to move her 9-year-old child, whose name was Fatima, to the hospital. She had blue eyes and blue scarf because she has no hair. She was very nice. She liked painting and drawing. Fatma that day was very weak and her situation is getting worse. She was suffering a lot. I moved Fatma and I knew that this is the last time I would see her. Till today, when I know a child, when we are losing a child, every time I see Fatma in front of me.
Fatma's death was overwhelming for Rima, and she stepped away from her volunteering. But she could not stay away for long, and she became the executive manager of BASMA. In a short period of time, BASMA opened the first specialized pediatric cancer unit just outside the capital city of Damascus. The hospital had 16 inpatient beds and 8 more outpatients. And they quickly realized this all costs money, and they needed a new way to raise awareness for childhood cancer in Syria. So the foundation began to produce fundraising campaigns on the radio and in the Syrian opera house, with great results. But just as real change began to take shape, the Syrian civil war happened.
BASMA Pediatric Oncology Unit, which was in a war zone during several years, never ceased or stopped to deliver its services. And why BASMA Pediatric Oncology Unit didn't stop all that time? Because of her staff. Her staff, they traveled around 20 kilometers every day to come to work and welcome the children, and the children are still coming to the unit. They were at risk, but they are insisting to come and continue their treatment. And it was very inspiring, really, and it is very motivating for us to keep going and to put all our resources to support the unit and support the staff.
Mayya Assaad, who helped start all this work with BASMA, explains global sanctions and other economic disparities have made daily survival extremely difficult.
The war impacted BASMA in so many ways, but mostly in fundraising, because the priorities of donors shifted to the refugee crisis. So when we used to go to ask for donation, they were telling us, no, now it's the priorities goes to the refugees, because covering one child with cancer equals supporting 50 families of refugees. So the fundraising stopped completely till 2018, when we resumed slowly and with small-scale events. Many wealthy people left the country. The sanctions from the West prevented donations from abroad, so even the Syrian people who wanted to help us from abroad, the country couldn't send any money. The dangerous situation prevented people to come to our unit, so to travel, because the roads either were dangerous or closed. Now we have the fuel and energy crisis, which also prevent travel to Damascus, because people don't have fuel to put in their car, and there is no heat in the hospitals. Of course, again, our biggest challenge is that most medications are now unavailable, even through the black market. We are facing many, many, many challenges.
Many of these challenges are similar to the challenges in the low and middle-income countries, with the extra burden of a conflict zone. Syria suffered with the inability to even get medicine into the country, regardless of the cost or even if it's available. Mayya and Rima shared these challenges and their experiences with other St. Jude Global Alliance partners and learned they were not alone.
We need to benefit from everyone's expertise and experiences. So it's very important to know that it's not happening only in Syria. Children with cancer are everywhere in the world, not only in Syria, and that we can tackle this cause by being one hand or one group. We will have more tools, will be more empowered to help them than just by being Syria by itself, or Lebanon by itself, or Venezuela by itself, or Zambia by itself. It's better to connect all these countries together so they can help each other and work for the children with cancer and their families.
And that's exactly what the St. Jude Global Alliance does. It brings together countries from around the world to advance the St. Jude Global mission. Both Mayya and Rima understand deeply the power of collaboration in the work that must continue even in the most extreme conditions like a conflict zone. The families are counting on them to find a way, because cancer doesn't stop even when there's a war.
We were the first and only NGO in Syria to support children with cancer and their families. We were working on many levels to improve the cause of childhood cancer, not only in one area, in many areas. We were heading to establish the first multidisciplinary specialized pediatric cancer unit in Syria. We had the land for free from the government. We had the architecture plan for free from one of the best architects in the region. We were really trying to tackle all aspects of childhood cancer to support the children and their families. We were working a lot on educating the community in general, from children by working with them in school to engage them and educate them and let them help in fundraising, to the mass population, middle class, wealthy people. Many people were supporting us. When I talk about it, it's like another lifetime.
We cannot stop. Yeah, we cannot stop, no, because the mission has become wider now. And we have to continue because we cannot stop treatment. We cannot go to the half of the road and then say, well, sorry, we don't have a fund. I'm sure that we are making a difference. We are raising the survivor rate. We have survivors, we have champions. We can see them and we can celebrate with them their successful stories.
Mayya Assaad is the co-founder of BASMA, the Children with Cancer Support Association in Syria, and Rima Salem is the executive manager. BASMA is fighting to survive the aftermath of a civil war, even as its patients and families fight to survive cancer. That dual threat of cancer and conflict is a reality for so many families in Syria and abroad. That is why the St. Jude Global Mission must continue to fight for every child everywhere, because St. Jude won't stop until no child dies the dawn of life. Thank you for listening to our story. We hope you enjoyed learning more about our partners in the St. Jude Global Alliance. This episode was produced by Jeffrey Reddick. It was edited by Grace Korziko Evans and Evelyn Skoda. Recorded by Jason Latshaw. And I'm Suhair Rasool.